Welcome back to Reading Bear. Today, we will take a look at some new malicious compliance stories. And if you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comments. Let's go!
The first one is titled, Package Stacking Malicious Compliance. A few years ago I worked in the warehouse at a delivery company. My job was to stack the boxes in the back of the semi-trucks so that they could be transported to the next facility. Me and another poor sap would stand in the back of a hot truck while packages came down a chute into the truck. There were small packages, light packages, and heavy packages. We had to grab boxes as soon as they came down the chute, scan their barcodes, and stack them fast as possible and as high as possible. The ideal stack should be about a foot from the ceiling of the truck. This was a bit of a problem for me because I am kind of short. Once the stack got so high I could give the smaller packages a little bit of a toss to get them on top of the stack, but when bigger ones came down the chute I had to start a new stack. The solution for this problem was something called a load stand. It's basically a big yellow plastic staircase for shorties like me. This helped me stack higher, but it slowed me down greatly. Since I had to leave my truck to get the load stand, put it in place, stack the last few packages and then move it out of the way so I could start a new stack. This could easily double the amount of time it took me to stack packages. At the beginning of each shift we would get in a huddle and our manager to tell us how bad of a job we did the night before. He would tell us that we didn't stack the boxes fast enough, and we didn't stack them high enough, and that we didn't do a good enough job of scanning them. He had this all written on a whiteboard so we could see exactly how bad of a job we did the previous night. He would then tell us that there would be way more packages today, and that we needed to do a better job than we did yesterday. So I'm stacking as high and as fast as I can, but this particular day was extra busy. The packages were coming down the chute so fast that they would fall out onto the floor of the truck. They would fall all around our feet and legs so that we had to stack incredibly fast in order to be able to move. Of course this made it more difficult for me to stack high. I tried. The smaller lighter packages could get tossed to the top, but then a bunch of heavy ones would come and I'd have to start a new stack. It was summer in the back of a semi-truck and I was completely covered in sweat. My shirt was soaked and my eyes were stinging from my sweat. I was up to my knees in packages and they kept coming down the chute. My manager popped his head in my truck and yelled, "Hey! Use the load stand. If you insist." I stopped stacking and walked out of my truck to get the load stand. I had to walk over packages, crunching them beneath my feet. Then I had to climb over the conveyor belt full of packages, denting some of those as well. I got the load stand and walked over more packages back to my spot. I set the load stand down on top of the ever-growing package pile. I climbed the load stand and I could feel the boxes flatten from my weight, and I grabbed some of the packages that weren't smashed yet and managed to stack them to the very tippy top. Okay. Take a break, get a drink of water," he said. While I was getting a drink of water, the manager came up to me and patted me on the back, getting sweat all over his hand, and said what I did was dangerous and I needed to be more careful. I was just doing what you told me to. He didn't yell at me about the load stand again. P.S. Huge respect to everyone out there doing this job, especially right now. I can only imagine what it's like with everyone being at home and ordering Amazon all the time. And in my experience, at least at this company, management is always a bunch of idiots. Thanks for doing what you do. I couldn't stick it out for a whole year. The next one is titled, Want to Talk to the Boss? Cast me. My son who is too. Crazy tenant. Building owner. Back in 2012 to 2015 I worked as a building supervisor with 7 buildings I took care of. I also had a side job as a contractor to paint any apartment that needed it. I only did this part-time because of other duties from my buildings. If I didn't have time for painting, my employer would hire outside workers. I had been a painter for about 8 years by this time and did a very good job. I wanted everything perfect. At the time my son was only 2 years old and I had him with me for 2 weeks. I had other building supers who were taking care of my buildings for my 2 weeks off. My boy started talking really early and by 2 he could speak quite clearly. He didn't make much sense but you could understand every word he said. I got a call from one of my tenants angrily telling me that I must come to her place to paint her living room. Her grandkids colored all over the walls with sharpies, and she has company coming and would be totally embarrassed if they saw her walls. I kindly told her I am on my 2-week vacation and can't help. She started screaming into the phone telling me it's my job. And I have to do this or she won't pay rent next month. I told her to call the building owners and explain that to them and that they have 3 other painters on call. That went over like a loud fart in church. Then I told her that my painting and landlord status were 2 separate jobs and I am on a 2-week vacation from both. She hung up and called the building owner. She called me after asking my side. I told her and she just laughed about it and said, if she calls back, just have fun. But she knows better than to threaten holding the rent back because I warned her if she didn't pay she couldn't stay. Asterisk, I miss that woman. Less than 5 minutes later I got the call I was expecting from the crazy tenant. She tried telling me the owners said I had to be there by tonight to get it done immediately. I laughed and told her I already talked to Tina. Not real name and am still on vacation. That's when she said she meant my boss from painting. Whoops. Hee. Malicious compliance activated. I said he is right here beside me. I'll put you on speaker so we can all straighten this or together. So I put the phone on speaker and told my son he is wanted in the phone. He loved talking on the phone. He didn't listen to you, just tell you all about what's going on with his day. Tell you what he is watching on TV. Tell you about the puppy pooping in the grass. She couldn't be rude to a toddler, so after a few minutes of him chattering away I picked up the phone and took it off speaker. This set my little man into a freak out. I said into the phone, that's my boss. By the sounds of him right now it doesn't look like I can make it tonight. She just hung up. I didn't get another call from her. I had to call my mum to settle him down again. My mother loves all the kids and would sit on the phone with any of her 10 grandkids for hours and love every second. The next one is titled, Not My Job or My Job? Make up your mind. I used to work for a major aircraft manufacturer, thanks 2020. I was still pretty green at the time, this was about 5 years ago, having came into the industry with absolutely zero experience after running away from retail management. I was on the manufacturing side of things and started at the very bottom, ReadingBear in fabrication. My job was to take parts that came hot off the machines and get rid of sharp edges, scratches, etc. Basically make them safe for handling and ready for the next process. Easy but super fast-paced and dirty work. I was really good at my job. Now, being in a facility with over 10,000 employees, the systems aren't perfect. Each order part has a checklist of processes that follows it until it terminates and becomes a larger assembly. Each individual action on that checklist is assigned a certain amount of hours some engineer decides is how long it should take to complete. Once complete, inspection buys the order and sells it to the next shop. We are to do no work that isn't assigned to our shop. This part is important. This is how areas monitor their budgets, but it's wildly inaccurate. Some parts would take 10 minutes and pay 20 hours while others would take 12 hours and pay 30 minutes, but they said it all evens out at the end. Now for the fun bit. In training, my lead explained that a couple of managers had a sort of handshake deal that we would do their process in order to streamline specific parts. These parts would travel across campus, a mile or 2, just to have a vinyl-like protective coating peeled by hand and then returned. They always got damaged in transport, so they cut out the middleman to save time and materials. So these parts come in and I peel and process them without issue. We get a new hire who I relay the information to. He forgets to peel some small parts and they make it all the way to production. Because this is union work, there's a lot of, not my job, not my problem. No one else peeled the parts. The painters painted over this protective coating that's only held on by static. Now if we scrap a part in our area, the cost is negligible, usually, as they haven't been processed. But the further along the parts get, the more expensive they become due to all the labor. They scrap about 30 of these things at about $200 per each. Our manager and her boss come back furious, but he's new so he gets a verbal warning. My turn. I get a big part, about the size of a Miata, but 1/4 thick flat aluminum. Already expensive just because of the sheer size, and it's gone through several processes already. I peel it and notice a giant wave right in the middle. The part is not usable. I call my lead over and he agrees, so he calls the manager. Manager waddles over and asks, "Who the hell peeled this?" I tell her that I did, because it's in the paperwork. She calls her boss and tells him I'm incompetent and to come see what I did. He asks the same and why. I explain the understanding we had with the previous shop and that if I did not peel it, no one else would and it would get to the end of the line, be scrapped, and I would get written up. He huffs and they puff but don't write me up because I had already accepted a promotion to another area and would be out of their hair soon. They give us strict instruction to no longer honor that understanding. I got that same big part a couple days later as a replacement for the scrapped one. I do my best to deburr everything and leave the coating on. Sure enough, about a week later, guess who's waddling over? The director of fabrication and his two underlings. "D, you want to explain to me why you cost us $20,000? Me asterisk confused, D, you signed off your job as complete on this part, shows me a photo of a painted parts that had been permanently attached to a fuselage section, but did nothing. It made it all the way to assembly without being peeled. This was already a rush because the last one got scrapped too. Me, both of your managers informed me that peeling is not my job and that I would be written up for doing so. Me peeling the part was the reason the last one was scrapped, even though peeling revealed a structural issue with the part that was present. I explained this exact situation would happen but was told the same again. Manager, you're getting a write-up. I never said that. It's your job to follow the instructions on your sheet, you should know that by now. Me, show me on my work order where it states this shop is responsible for peeling this part and I'll sign whatever you want. A couple days later, the director sends an email to our shop that our manager is being transferred to another area and to hold all parts this understanding pertained to until they could alter the instructions forms for all of their work orders. Thankfully that was my last week and my next area was infinitely slower paced, cleaner, climate controlled and more laid back. No more metal dust covering my clothes, hair and inside of my nose. The next one is titled, "Just print on the closest available printer." This story goes back to when a friend and I started a fledgling department at a mid-major US manufacturer. The year was 2008 and I was keen to start a department to create a new sales channel. I was starting to buy more and more as a customer through this channel and saw it as the future of e-commerce. The sales channel and department was Amazon. My coworker took eBay as he thought it would be more promising. Amazon currently outsells eBay at our company 10,000 to 1. Our business saw slow growth at first as we were mainly B2B and Amazon was not used nearly as much for business purchases at the time, but within short order the orders were rolling in. On Amazon you either sell FBA, fulfilled by Amazon, in which you ship in bulk to Amazon warehouses and then Amazon fulfills your order when placed. These are prime items, or FBM, fulfilled by merchant, which is more like standard e-commerce. An order comes in that was placed on Amazon, you fulfill it and ship it, Amazon gets their 15%, order complete. The entire Amazon department, 2.5 guys, shared one printer at the time. We were not a priority for just about anything back then, which included resources, manpower, and tech support. When the printer went down, we could be in a cycle of days trying to get tech support on it. The expedient way of getting tech support to do anything was talk to effectively the day-to-day chief officer and founder's son, Jim. Jim was nice enough, but he was heavy into legacy merchant-client relationships and didn't throw any more support behind the newfangled Amazon than his father would have. Wednesday comes, Amazon printer goes down. Every order needs a packing slip printed, sales order, purchase order when applicable, job notes, etc. Probably 8 sheets per order. We tried going through the in-house tech support ticket system the first couple days, but the job just kept being marked as complete, no idea whether that was system error or intentional. We tried making a ticket about the ticket, but it was no use. IT was majorly standoffish about using their perfect system, so going to them to sort it out in person when I was not their boss would be useless. Come Friday, we appealed to Jim directly to pressure IT to act like they work for us too. This wasn't such a big deal as Jim was actually right on the other side of the wall from us. Every time I'd come in, Jim would be about to start something important. No idea if it was conference calls or cruise plans. He worked hard but took a lot of time off per year. Finally, Jim snapped, "If your printer's not working, just print on the closest available printer. IT will get to it when they can." Now, in another situation I'd let this comment slide, but we were beyond swamped and I was in no mood, so Malicious Compliance activated. I don't know what Jim was thinking, but technically the closest available printer to us was directly on the other side of the wall. Jim's printer. It was a glorious behemoth and major overkill for one person printing in a corporate office. Blazing fast duplex, full color, the works. It was super loud and distracting any time you printed on it, which was fine as he almost never printed as he was more of an ideas man than someone who did much order entry. His assistant would print out things for him a few times a day, but he was not prepared for Monday. Our orders would build up all weekend, and so Monday was a killer. At the time, we did way too much direct fulfillment rather than seeing the light and using FBA. This meant that on Monday we would print something like 300 to 500 orders. These were entered manually at the time, so the process would be print packing slip, print sales order, print purchase order, print notes, go to next order. Jim's printer was a champ. Every time we'd need to print, over 1,000 times total that day, it would make super loud noises, toner warming, and spit out the 2 pages at warp speed. This printing on Mondays would go on all day long. We also had runners coming in every few minutes to take the orders and dispatch them to shipping or production. After what felt like hours but was probably only 30 minutes, Jim finally broke down, accosted us with his righteous indignation at us using an execs printer. We did the malicious compliance thing and reminded him he advised us to use the closest available printer. He meant the one across the hall. We reminded him the wall was thinner than the hall. IT was there 5 minutes later. They did the ritual, turning it off and on again, pressing 2 buttons, and told us we were good to go. The next one is titled, Trying to Cheat the Customer to Cover Up Your Mistake? Fine, I'll make you fix it another way. This story is about the, in my humble opinion, rightful, malicious compliance of a boss. This happened at a small to medium-sized company, where I worked as the tech support for international sales department. The company is located in Turkey and manufactures electronic measurement hardware with communication capabilities. There were 4 salespeople in our department. But one of them, let's call him Adam, seemed a more devout Muslim compared to other salespeople, and our devout Muslim manager liked this. He used to get special treatment from our manager, such as getting assigned all the European countries as sale areas, getting a company car, getting paid a little more than his peers. Adam had sold 400 devices to a new customer in France. This was quite a big sale, so he was very happy. But to make this sale, he had said yes to the customer's customization request. The devices that he sold have some communication settings, and customer asked one of these settings to be different than the factory set one for all 400 devices. They were planning to install these devices on their existing network, so this setting needed to be the same on the devices and the existing network to provide less configuration for them. Normally, he would have to mention this detail in his sales document so our production department can implement this setting change during production. I guess he forgot to mention it during his post-sales bliss. By the way, we all became aware of his forgetfulness after the fallout. So, the devices are manufactured and shipped to the customer. After receiving the devices, the customer sends an email to the international sales manager. While installing first 5 devices to their network, they found out that their customized setting was not applied. They were asking if these first 5 devices were flukes or they should stop installing the devices and start the return reimbursement process. Our manager had no idea what they were talking about, so he asked Adam. Adam, trusting on their familiarity, revealed that he forgot to disclose the customer's customization request. Our manager tried to dismiss the problem by basically saying to the customer, "We manufactured and shipped the devices. Other than pulling them back, setting them up as you requested and sending them back, there isn't anything that we can do," in an email. This is where the boss comes into the picture. You see, boss was BCC'd on all the emails concerning the international sales department. So he sees the manager's response, searches the customer's name in all past department emails and sees that Adam forgot to mention the customization detail to manufacturing department. He immediately calls the manager and Adam to his room. He already has a punishment in his mind. He only needs to determine if this punishment will be served to only Adam or to the manager as well. After a very short interrogation, we're told by boss secretary, our manager reveals all and tells that he had no idea about the customer's customization until their email had arrived. Boss tells the manager to leave them. According to the secretary, boss asked only one question to Adam: "Is your Schengen visa up to date?" After hearing yes, boss called his secretary and told her to buy an economy class round-trip ticket from Turkey to France, both flights on the same day tomorrow. After hanging up the phone, boss told Adam, "You promised that the customer will receive customized hardware. If you spend around 2 minutes to change the requested setting of remaining 395 devices by hand, it would take approximately 12 to 14 hours, pretty accurate. Go, change them and return. If you miss your return flight, you will buy the new return flight out of your own pocket. Now, get out." According to boss secretary, Adam couldn't move for 2 minutes after exiting the room. After 2 minutes, he heads to his desk. Up to this point, the rest of the department still didn't know what happened. When Adam sits down at his desk, we jokingly ask him if he got fired. He just tells us that boss is making him to go to France for an after-sales emergency. Now, we're not fans of the guy, but without knowing the backstory, we think boss was being unreasonable for sending Adam to France on such short notice. However, we caught boss secretary during one of our cigarette breaks and learned the backstory from her. Now, we were thinking that Adam was lucky that boss didn't make him pay for the plane tickets. The last one is titled, "Don't Turn Anyone Away for $100 Bills." At my work, corporate doesn't want us to lose any amount of business for any reason, so we're required to take large bills. Even if they're buying like a $2 newspaper, I still have to break the 100 they present to me. When I first clock in the morning, my register only has $100 exactly. Lately, especially on Sundays, my very first transaction of the day involves a $100 bill, because they know they can break it at our location. I could go get my boss and have them give me 20s so I can break the bill easier, but that's not fun. Keep in mind, I don't start my shift with 20s in my drawer. So, I make the customer watch me pull out my 10s, then 5s, then 1s, then I start on the quarters. They can't say anything, because I'm breaking their bill, and they can see that I don't have anything else in my drawer. They can only bite their tongues and glance at the growing line nervously. People stare. The customer sweats. The line grows. I hand over the pile of coins and $1 bills. Without fail, every time, they step to the side to count to make sure I was accurate. The next customer steps up. I cheerfully say, "Sorry, it'll be a few minutes before I can do any transactions, my drawer is out of money." The customer that wiped out my drawer looks ashamed. I walk into the back room with the 100 and my supervisor stares at me. "You did it again, didn't you?" She opens her desk drawer and starts counting 10s and 5s to exchange for my 100. It's too much fun to watch them squirm, I admit. You bring me 100s and I give public humiliation in return. She laughs and puts her head down on the desk. "Please keep doing this. It's way too funny." I gather the money she's giving me and give her a thumbs up. She takes the 100, I head back up to the counter. The customer is still counting their ones, and the line is much longer now. "Sorry about the wait," I say, putting away my money. I ran out of cash in my drawer. I watch the customer blush and squirm. I am fulfilled. Thanks for listening.